6 feet by 6 feet, 36 square feet total. Less space than a parking spot. Now imagine 5 grown men crammed inside that box, moving metal descending through darkness. No escape route, no backup plan, no room for error. This is where martial arts theory meets brutal reality, where legendary footwork becomes worthless, where everything you thought you knew about fighting gets compressed into claustrophobic chaos. October 1970. The Century Plaza Hotel stood tall against the Los Angeles skyline, its upper floors housing business deals, celebrity meetings, and, that particular evening, a conversation that would keep Bruce Lee working past midnight. He was 29 years old, riding the momentum of growing fame, discussing film opportunities with a producer whose office occupied the building's peak. The meeting stretched longer than expected. When Bruce finally checked his watch, it was pushing 11 p.m. He gathered his things, said his goodbyes, and headed toward the elevator bank. Nothing unusual, nothing suspicious, just another night wrapping up another meeting in a city full of meetings. He pressed the call button and waited, probably thinking about getting home to Linda, maybe running through tomorrow's training schedule in his head. The elevator arrived with its familiar ding, doors parted, empty car. Perfect. Bruce stepped inside, pressed the lobby button, and watched the doors begin their slow mechanical close. That's when everything shifted. 4 men appeared from nowhere, or more accurately, from around the corner where they'd been waiting. They rushed the closing doors, forcing their way into the car just as the gap narrowed. Last-second entry, too deliberate to be coincidence. Bruce's entire nervous system went on alert immediately. You don't survive street encounters by ignoring your instincts, and everything about this situation screamed setup. The way they positioned themselves told the story. Not random, not casual, strategic placement, bodies forming a loose perimeter around him. Their eyes avoided direct contact, another tell. When people accidentally crowd an elevator, they make eye contact, offer awkward smiles, acknowledge the shared discomfort. These 4 did none of that. They were performers waiting for their cue, and the elevator had already started its descent. Trapped. The word has weight when you're a martial artist whose entire fighting philosophy depends on movement, distance management, angles of attack. Bruce Lee's legendary sidekicks needed 6 feet of clearance. His spinning techniques required room to rotate. His famous footwork, the constant shifting, the rhythmic bouncing that kept opponents guessing, needed floor space. This elevator offered none of that, just walls pressing in from every direction and 4 bodies filling the remaining void. The alpha male spoke first. "You're Bruce Lee." Not a question, a statement heavy with challenge. His tone carried the weight of premeditation, of discussions had elsewhere, of a plan being set into motion. Bruce acknowledged it with a careful nod, his peripheral vision tracking all 4 simultaneously, calculating distances, exit points, threat levels. "We watched you at the Long Beach International 3 years back. Impressive demonstration work. But demonstrations aren't the same as real fighting, are they?" The subtext wasn't subtle. They wanted to test him. 4 against 1. Prove that the movie techniques, the tournament performances, the carefully choreographed demonstrations were just Hollywood smoke and mirrors. In normal circumstances, Bruce could diffuse situations like this. His verbal skills matched his physical ones. He could talk down confrontations, redirect aggression, find diplomatic exits. But diplomacy requires time and space. The elevator provided neither. 25 floors to descend, maybe 45 seconds if they were lucky, and these men weren't interested in conversation. They were spreading out, subtly shifting weight forward, preparing to strike. Bruce tried anyway. "Gentlemen, I'm not looking for any problems here. Let's all just ride down peacefully and go our separate ways." The words came out calm, measured, offering them an off-ramp they weren't going to take. The leader's smile confirmed it. Wrong kind of smile, the predatory variety. "We're perfectly calm, just curious to see how those fancy techniques work in a phone booth." Bruce's tactical mind went into overdrive, running calculations at processing speeds that would make computers jealous. 4 hostile targets, 36 square feet of fighting space divided among 5 people, roughly 7 square feet per body. For effective striking, you need approximately 15 square feet minimum. They had less than half that. His kicks were essentially useless. Anything above waist height would put him off balance in the confined space. Extended punches would leave him vulnerable to grappling. This required close quarters combat weapons: elbows, knees, headbutts, palm strikes, short-range devastation tools that didn't require wind-up or follow-through. Time estimate: 2 minutes until lobby doors opened. Objective: neutralize all 4 threats before the elevator reached ground level, and this became a public relations nightmare or a police situation. No room for prolonged exchanges, no time for feeling them out, just explosive efficiency. The attack launched without warning. No announcement, no preliminary trash talk, just sudden violence. The leader came first, throwing a committed right cross aimed at Bruce's jaw. Power behind it, intent to damage. In an open space, Bruce would simply shift back 2 feet and counter. But 2 feet didn't exist here. The elevator wall pressed against his spine. He could only slip laterally, turning his head maybe 3 inches to the right. The fist screamed past his ear, close enough to feel the air displacement. Bruce's counterstrike came from pure instinct and thousands of hours of drilling compact techniques. His left elbow whipped upward in a tight arc, catching the leader directly under the chin. In that confined space, elbows became sledgehammers, no wind-up necessary, all leverage generated from core rotation. The impact snapped the leader's head backward into the elevator wall with a metallic thud that echoed through the car. His eyes rolled slightly. First threat neutralized. 3 seconds elapsed. But the others were already moving. The second attacker grabbed Bruce's right arm, trying to control it, pin it, eliminate that weapon from the equation. Smart strategy against a striker: tie up their tools. Bruce's response was textbook Wing Chun adapted for survival. Explosive hip rotation breaking the grip, the same torque bringing his knee up in a vicious arc into his attacker's solar plexus, the body's central shutoff switch. Air exploded from his lungs in an audible gasp. He folded forward, diaphragm spasming, completely disabled. 6 seconds total. The third man showed more tactical awareness than his friends. He'd watched 2 people go down in 6 seconds and adjusted his strategy accordingly. He went low, shooting in like a wrestler, aiming to tackle Bruce's legs and drive him into the wall. Actually intelligent. Unfortunately for him, Bruce saw it coming with that supernatural reaction time witnesses always talked about. As the man dove forward, Bruce's hands dropped, catching the incoming head. Instead of resisting the forward momentum, he redirected it, pulling the man's face downward while simultaneously driving his own knee upward. The Muay Thai clinch executed in a space designed for standing still. The collision was catastrophic, cartilage crunching, blood erupting. The man's nose essentially exploded on impact, and he crumpled to the elevator floor, consciousness departing. 10 seconds elapsed. 1 man left. The fourth attacker proved he'd been paying attention. While his companions went down, he'd positioned himself behind Bruce, moving with the subtle footwork of someone who actually knew what they were doing. His arms wrapped around Bruce's neck from behind, the rear naked choke, one of the most dangerous positions in combat sports. Cut off the blood flow to the brain, and you've got maybe 8 to 12 seconds before unconsciousness arrives. This wasn't amateur hour anymore. This was a legitimate threat. Bruce had maybe 10 seconds to solve this problem before the lights went out. The elevator continued its descent, 15 floors remaining. His hands shot to the choking arm, both grips locking on, pulling down hard to create a few millimeters of breathing room. That tiny space was everything. Then he executed something beautiful in its simplicity, a modified judo throw adapted for an environment where you can't actually throw someone more than 2 feet. His hips dropped explosively, rotating as his hands pulled the choking arm forward. The fourth man flipped over Bruce's hip, but instead of sailing through the air like in a dojo demonstration, he immediately collided with the elevator wall, traveling maybe 18 inches total. But in that confined space, the wall absorbed everything. No give, no cushion, just steel meeting spine, meeting physics. An audible crack suggested ribs saying goodbye to their structural integrity. The man slid down the wall like a cartoon character, defeated. 19 seconds total. 4 opponents neutralized. Bruce stood there, breathing hard, hands trembling slightly. Not from fear, from the adrenaline dump that follows legitimate life-or-death encounters. His mind was already analyzing how close that had been. One mistake, one slip on someone's blood, one miscalculated distance, one technique that didn't work in the compressed space, and he'd be the one on the floor. This wasn't a movie where the hero always wins. This was chaos barely contained by skill. The elevator continued descending. Floor 8, almost there. Bruce looked at the carnage surrounding him. The leader slumped against the wall, eyes unfocused.